The twin suns of Varakes too hung low over the jagged cliffs, bathing the nomadic village of the Ithera in a molten red-gold light. Dust devils whirled across the cracked earth, rattling against the bone and hide huts. In the center of the village, a massive bonfire blazed, and around it gathered the proud, towering figures of the Itheran warriors, their pale, scaled skin shimmering under layers of ceremonial armor. Among them stood one who did not belong. Corporal Jack Reeves shifted uncomfortably, the heat suffocating inside his lightweight exosuit. His dark hair clung to his forehead, and his pulse pounded in his ears. He towered nearly a head shorter than the Itheran males, but his broad shoulders and square jaw lent him a stubborn presence. Jack had come to Varakes too as part of an Earth delegation to negotiate mining rights, only to find the Itherans wary of outsiders. Negotiations had stalled. The humans had mostly kept to their diplomatic tents at the village's edge. All except Jack. Something about these proud, fierce people called to him. He had ventured into the heart of their settlement against protocol, seeking to understand them better. Now, as evening descended, an air of unease prickled his skin. The Itherans muttered to each other, their yellow eyes flickering toward the darkening horizon. "Tonight," growled Elder Vecthra, voice deep and guttural, "the Gora will hunt." Jack frowned. He had heard whispers of the Gora, nightmare predators from the northern wastes, creatures with gnarled talons and hides like living stone. No one spoke of them lightly. The warriors began fastening their weapons, serrated spears, bone-forged swords, preparing for an attack. "Stay in your tent, human," warned Sailare, a fierce young huntress Jack had spoken to before. She looked at him now, her silver-scaled brow furrowed with something like concern. "This is not your fight." Jack met her gaze steadily. "If your people are in danger, it's everyone's fight." Sailare gave a short, humorless laugh. "Human, you misunderstand. To interfere in our battle is to invoke tribal law." "What law?" She hesitated, then said, "If you fight at our side, you fight as one of us. Victories, oaths, bonds. You cannot escape their consequences." Jack smirked. Never been good at running from consequences. Before she could respond, a howl split the night. The Gora had come. They burst from the dark like living avalanches, hulking beasts with snapping jaws and arms like twisted tree limbs. Their eyes glowed with sickly green fire. The ground shook under their charge. The Itheran warriors braced themselves. And then something strange happened. The largest Gora, a behemoth almost 3 meters tall, let out a shuddering roar that seemed to freeze the Itherans in place. Their weapons wavered. Their feet shuffled back. Even Elder Vecthra stepped away, his hand trembling around his staff. They were afraid. Jack's instincts, honed over years of frontline service, kicked in. Without thinking, he ripped his plasma knife from his belt and charged forward. The closest Gora turned, massive claw sweeping toward him. Jack ducked low, the blade in his hand flashing upward. The knife bit deep into the Gora's thick hide, sizzling as it burned into the beast's muscle. It shrieked and staggered. The Itherans gasped. Jack didn't stop. He weaved between the monsters, striking fast and hard, targeting joints and soft flesh. His movements were less about brute force and more about precision, agility, things the massive Gora couldn't counter. The largest Gora roared in fury and barreled toward him. Jack dug in, adrenaline surging. The beast swung a clawed hand the size of a trash can lid, but Jack sidestepped, driving his knife into the beast's eye. The Gora thrashed, screeching, and collapsed with a bone-shaking crash. Silence fell. The remaining Gora, seeing their alpha slain, turned and fled into the night, their howls receding into the distance. Jack wiped the blood from his knife and turned to find every Itheran staring at him. Elder Vecthra approached slowly, leaning heavily on his staff. His scaled face was inscrutable, but there was no mistaking the reverence in his voice. "You fought when we could not," the elder said. "You stood when fear took us. By our ancient laws, you have earned the right of Bond's blade." Jack frowned. "What's Bond's blade?" Vecthra's mouth curled into what might have been a smile. "You have the right to claim a bond. A warrior's reward. A bride." Jack blinked. "Wait, what?" A murmur ran through the gathered Itherans. Sailare stepped forward, her silver scales glinting in the firelight, her yellow eyes fierce. "I offer myself if you will have me," she said clearly. The village held its breath. Jack stared at her. Sailare was beautiful in a fierce alien way. Tall, strong, proud. He thought of Earth, of the diplomatic tent, of the sterile meetings and cold political games. And he thought of tonight, the fight, the adrenaline, the raw honesty of it. He sheathed his knife. "I accept," he said. The village erupted in a low, rhythmic chanting, a deep, resonant sound that seemed to thrum through Jack's bones. The wedding rites were unlike anything Jack had ever imagined. At dawn, Sailare led him to the high cliffs overlooking the wastelands. They painted each other's faces with ash and ochre, binding their hands together with strips of woven bone grass. A chieftain chanted ancient blessings, invoking the spirits of stone and storm. Afterward, they stood together before the assembled tribe. Jack half expected someone to object. Surely someone would question allowing an outsider, a human, into their bloodlines. But none did. Instead, they roared their approval, stamping their heavy feet in a thunderous rhythm that shook the ground. Later, as the celebrations faded and the stars emerged in the deepening sky, Jack and Sailare sat together on a cliff's edge, the wind whipping Sailare's long hair around her face. "You could have left us," she said quietly. "You owe us nothing." Jack shrugged. "Maybe not. But where I come from, you don't turn your back on good people." She turned to study him, her expression unreadable. "You are not like the others of your kind." "Maybe," Jack said. "Or maybe most people just need a reason to remember who they are." Sailare reached out, tracing the line of his jaw with clawed fingers surprisingly gentle. "You are one of us now. Blood and bone." He smiled. "I think I'm okay with that." She leaned in and kissed him, her lips rough but warm, the kiss fierce and possessive. Weeks passed. Jack adapted quickly to life among the Itherans. He learned their language, their customs, their brutal but honorable ways. Sailare taught him to hunt the great sandstalkers and to weave traps from the silk of cliff spiders. He taught her how to modify energy weapons for better efficiency, and how to spot weak points in enemy formations. They were an unlikely pair, human and Itheran, but their bond was forged in fire and battle. One evening, as the sun set behind the jagged mountains, a messenger arrived from the human diplomatic camp. The ambassador himself, a rotund man named Hargrove, came personally, flanked by armed guards. "Corporal Reeves," Hargrove said stiffly, "you are ordered to return to the human sector. Your involvement here is jeopardizing delicate negotiations." Jack crossed his arms. "I'm not leaving. You're abandoning your post." Hargrove sputtered. Jack shook his head slowly. "I'm not abandoning anything.